We should make that joke. There it is.
Oh,
See the
there we go.
snitch. The
Okay.
snitch. Hello and welcome to Stripper Whisper, the podcast where I get behind the G string and interview strippers about their lives outside the clubs, what it's like working in the clubs, and how we can all be better customers in their space. Today we are virtual with Nikki from Tahoe, but also Bend. We'll talk about it. Say hi, Nikki.
Hi.
All right, welcome. We're here, and the episodes are super interesting, all by their lonesome, just to listen to. But if you'd like to put a face to the voice, check out Nikki on Instagram at She Is Tattooed. She is tattooed. If you can't spell tattooed, you'll figure it out. And also over on our Patreon page, we're on Patreon. You can join us there and you'll get extra content like the video of this episode. I didn't ask permission for that. Consent is important, but we'll talk about it later.
We'll consent.
We'll consent later. Hey, shouldn't consent afterwards. That's kind of bad, right?
Probably not. Maybe like mid consent. Just yes.
Check-ins.
Yes. Yeah.
Frequent check-ins are hot, I hear. So I don't know. I mean, it's been a while for me, so I wouldn't know. But hey, we do it on Zoom now. One, because we can't be in the same room typically, and right now we couldn't even if we lived in the same city, it might be difficult because you got a snowstorm and I got a snowstorm here in Seattle.
Yep.
People don't understand Reno and Tahoe, right? Like they think it's just like sunny. All of Nevada, people think sunny all year long or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm on the California side, and it's really interesting because it's a little city that kind of sprouted up in the 70s, and it was very much built for, I don't know, 5,000 people, and maybe 40,000 flock here during the holidays. So that coupled with snowstorms, it's insane.
Is it significantly more populated in the winter than the summer, or just?
No, it goes both ways because the lake's really beautiful. So people,
Right.
the joke is always you come for the winter and you stay for the summer, and that's like how it goes. And then once the time that summer's going by, you're like, well, I'm here, so I might as well just stay for the winter.
Okay.
And that's like the merry-go-round, I guess you'd say.
Got it. Well, we do most of the interviews virtually now, or at least I do, because it's a little awkward to just randomly be like, "Hey, I got this podcast in my hotel room." Because strippers are like,
Join
"Oh,
me."
sure you do." I've heard that a few times. So, but it's still mildly awkward. I barely know you, don't even know you really, and so I need a little liquid courage. So I take a shot of Tito's. It appears Tito's is our sponsor because I'm wearing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and they're definitely like, hey, well, you need to put this on when you're taking the shot.
Yeah, actually, I should not even say it. They need to become a sponsor.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are you talking? You
mean,
need to reach out to them and say, hey, I did a shot and I was wearing your fucking beanie.
Yes, on a podcast that 14 people listen to. So
fuck you.
That's a lot of money for you guys, I'm pretty sure. But I'll take this and we'll get moving.
I'm unprepared, but I will have to join next time.
Next we'll have you on again. And in fact, we'll talk about that. There might be something in the cooking here. So but I'm ready always.
No chaser? You're going baby bottle?
Well, I have water. I have this new water bottle. Look at this thing. And it has the little spout, and the spout has the flavor in it.
There you go.
And then you can turn it to 1 to 10 on the like how much. Yeah,
on how diluted you want your cherry flavor.
I can't I can't drink water unless there's flavor, and I don't want sugar in my
But you don't partake in the electrolytes. You're not onto the liquid IV kick. I feel like
but there's sugar in it. I love that stuff.
I know it
sugar,
does.
Full of sugar.
The entire packet. You might as well just put a Kool-Aid pack in there.
That's what I'm saying. Like when people see, I don't drink coffee. I've never had a cup. They're trying to kick my ass out of Seattle. They're like, you don't belong here.
Say, listen. Start to close that town.
Yeah, people are like, how do you wake up in the morning? Well, sad and erect. But but people are like, well, why don't you? What about like vanilla, like hazelnut?
Like
That's what I said. It's hilarious you said that. I 100%. I say that all the time. I go, well, at that point, why don't I just have a milkshake?
Yeah. Do you know I have a blender at home?
That I love.
Yeah.
I love milkshake.
Listen,
I don't like the taste of coffee.
Okay. All
So I
right.
mean, like, what do I would I? But I don't want to wake up. I don't want to start my day with. If I'm hungover, probably a little bit of liquid IV with sugar. I do it all the time when I'm
So it's
hungover. Quite
Tito's
times.
and liquid IV instead.
Yeah, so I try to stay every morning. Why not?
And
In
go
the last
straight
two
White
years,
Russian and tell yourself that it's
it's
a
kind of not.
coffee. Yeah, that's not that. Heat it up and
That
then
I
it
could
has,
do probably. I love Bailey's, and
you know,
so
it's the
anytime I go
lish.
out and people are like, I want Bailey or a hot drink with Bailey's, and they're like Bailey's coffee, and I'm like,
Yeah.
do you have hot
Oh,
chocolate? And
yeah.
they're like,
Exactly. Can you give me little marshmallows on top? Do you have the
is
mini
your
ones?
kid? Are you giving this to your child?
Yeah.
No, you cannot have
No.
Bailey's hot chocolate for your child. But anyway,
For
cheers.
me. Cheers. I'll go in with you. Okay. He takes it like a champ. Ooh, professional. Oh my god, you swished it in your mouth.
I got it. You can't savor it. You're
Holy
too young
shit.
to know this, but the TV show Cheers, you don't. You're too young.
It is like one generation behind me.
I think
It
you're
is
right. You're Frasier.
definitely.
Maybe you're Frasier.
Yeah,
Maybe.
no, you know what I grew up watching? Simpsons. Like
Okay, that's good.
religiously. Like old school Simpsons
All
though.
right, that I can handle.
Yeah, some quality family time. And then they started coming, then Family Guy came and
Family
that was
Guy.
pretty
Yeah, there you
funny.
go.
And then American Dad, and then it just kind of trickled into fucking who knows what now.
Well, Cheers has this iconic character named Norm, and he would sit at the end of the bar and just drink and drink and drink. And one of my most memorable episodes was he was like a beer drink. He would just pound beers all day long and never get drunk. And he walked in, and they would go Norm, and it was the whole thing, right?
Okay.
Well, there's one episode where he goes to the brewery, and he visits a brewery, and they're giving him their taste testing, and they
Okay.
go, "All right, Norm, so here's just a little bit," and he's like looking at it like, I mean, come on, what are we doing here? And
Right.
they go, so just take a drink of that and just savor it in your mouth for a minute. Just hold it in your mouth for a minute,
Okay.
and then swallow it and tell us what you think. And he kind of looks, and then he does it, and he goes, "Holy, do people know about this? Keeping it
Yeah,
in your
does
mouth
yeah,
thing?"
you don't just gargle it down.
He's like, "I just guzzle. Like I've never. Oh my god, this is gonna change my life." That he
Do you,
like actually savored it. It's hilarious.
do you watch HBO?
I have it, and I just yes.
Okay,
Short answer, yes.
funny show. Have you seen it? How to with John Wilson. It's like this dude, and he's a like a video guy in New York City.
Yeah, he just walks the streets.
Yeah, super funny. He did an episode just recently, and it was like making fun of wine people, but because he can't get behind it. He's like, I don't get it. And then he like ends up at this like Bang party, the guy that created Bang, and it was fucking
Oh, Bang
hilarious.
energy drink.
Yeah, and it was just
Got
hilarious
it.
because he was like, I can get behind this razzle dazzle because it has flavor, like who the
Yes,
fuck
yes,
knows
yes.
what they're tasting when they're drinking wine.
I've been to a few bang parties that had razzle dazzle, but that's
Oh,
not true. Actually, I haven't.
yeah, that guy looks like he gets around.
I've heard great things about it, and I think I watched an episode and a half, and I need to get back to it. I just finished Succession, which is amazing and
Yeah,
dark
I'm
and
almost done with that one.
funny, but dark and whatever.
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah.
good humor.
Well, hey, let's
Let's talk about it.
introduce you to people. We kind of did, Nikki,
Yes.
from Tahoe, but we met somewhere else. You say your version, and then
I distinctly remember you, and it's only
Okay.
because there's like weird things that I pick up on in the club, and I remember having a conversation with you. And not to say that I
Okay.
haven't had conversations with other people, but I remember the table that we were sitting at,
Okay.
and you kind of had your back turned to the stage,
Ah.
and not I don't think in like a rude way, because
Okay.
you and your friend were sitting across from each other,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I was
yeah.
sitting in between you. And I remember you started talking to me, and you were like, "Listen, I've got this podcast." And I was like, "Sure, buddy. Like, I'm sure you do." Along with
100%.
everyone,
Of course, yeah.
And so we didn't really talk there much past that. It was in the
Uh-huh.
summertime that you were there, and it was super busy. It gets really busy there in the summer. And I was like, "Okay, buddy. Well, you're talking about a podcast. I'll get back to you later."
Yeah.
And then I started being like more active on my social media, and a girl that I know followed your comedy page, And I was
Mm.
looking at you and I was like, where the fuck do I know this guy from? Like, I know him from somewhere. His face looks familiar. And then I saw the podcast link to it and I was like, holy shit, this dude actually has a podcast.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's I'm full of shit.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fun.
that wasn't like an introductory, like you meet guys in the club
Oh yeah.
and I make a joke about it because I know people like they want to believe everything that people tell them, but I'm like, listen, the moment that a guy comes in the club, he can be whoever the fuck he wants to be. Like you could be Bob from
True.
Barbados that
True.
has yachts and so and in
So
your
podcast is pretty low flex if
like
if all that thing.
sure,
I have a
sure.
podcast. I have a YouTube channel like every
Excuse
7-year-old boy
me.
in
I
America,
actually
but
have
yeah,
25 followers. Like you
not
could
trying
be
to
the
brag.
26. Yes.
Funny. So that must have 2 years ago.
No, I think a
April 2019.
year. Oh, I don't even know. God, I'm not
I mean, with
sure.
this with the pandemic, it's so hard to even like.
No, I think it was over this summer. I think it was there was a point in time when they lifted all the restrictions in Oregon
Hmm.
and it was like no masks, no anything. And I think it was like fuck June, maybe?
Maybe I'm just
Maybe
looking at my
something like
calendar, going, I don't know that I went to Bend in that time. Anyway, I'm up in Seattle, so I was recently. So my version is I don't specifically recall that. I'm surprised. I'm a little surprised. I don't, but I won't say why.
you meet a lot
Uh,
of women.
well, more along the lines of like, all right. So if yeah, uh, curvy tattoo brunettes kind of like my thing. So
Okay.
I'm a little surprised that I don't
You
specifically
have a
recall.
taste.
I have a specific, yeah, it's
Okay.
very, you check my porn history and my past girlfriends and
You stick
it
it
all
in a
matches
single
up.
category. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Fair.
And then, but for me, like we were driving down from, let's see, what order do we do the shows in? We went Portland, Eugene, and then Bend. And we were headed to Bend, and I was like, and we were selling tickets pretty well. We were pretty excited, me and my buddy Andrew Rivers. And I go, oh, I should probably see, because I know Stars is in Bend,
Yeah.
and he and I had been there before. It's probably who I was with when I met you.
I'm sure.
Might have been another guy who I've been to Bend with and done shows, but so I was like, oh, I maybe already am connected with some folks. And Instagram makes it difficult. You can't use the search bar to search past conversations.
No.
You can only search handles, really,
Right.
basically. And so
Right.
you gotta kind of go, well,
Yeah.
and you can't
I'll go with this
location
one.
and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes it hard for us when we're trying to promote shows because I literally got to go like I did, like go, ah, shit.
Yeah.
So I go to the Stars
Yeah.
page
Sure.
and then I go see who they follow and see if it's mutual with anybody you know what I mean? Like I have to go
Sure.
all
Yeah.
these.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Instagram is
then
a weird world. It's like oddly very effective yet like still super weird because it's like you're like okay well let me go onto this page and then now I'm 4 pages in and oh who's this person that you're
yeah.
like wait I saw this person at the gas station I'm gonna follow up.
Well, then
Yeah.
algorithm wise, yeah, it's so interesting because Facebook is like you can literally has a function called nearby friends that a lot of people don't know about, and a lot of people don't know that theirs is turned on Facebook, where you can go to click nearby friends and it'll tell you literally who is near you.
Nearby.
Like
In
literally will
location
tell you the
wise
location they're at
that's terrifying
if
yeah
they've posted about it or but you can zoom and you can like they're at the 20 and it'll say how long ago they were there. So it's 23
yeah I
minutes
don't fuck
ago
with
they
Facebook like that.
yeah, so Facebook's like that. And
Okay.
Instagram owned by Facebook or Meta or World
Sure,
Peace or whatever the
whatever you want
fuck
to call it. Yeah,
is
the infinity thing like yeah
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, okay. But they probably did need to rebrand because it's a punchline, Facebook or whatever. So, they're like, it's harder, way harder, but very effective app. TikTok is like so easy to follow people.
That's
Like
so funny.
they
TikTok is
make
the
it,
only one that I do not get. And I'm like, okay, that's a generation behind me. Like I've skipped that one. I look at
ah,
it and I'm like, what is the point of this? You just keep like there's an endless scroll and it's
Right.
crazy. Like
Are you a viewer? Do
no,
you
I
have?
don't even have
Okay,
one. No.
gotcha. So it's a very addictive. It's very brilliant. It's a brilliant app. So smart in terms of
You
like
know
putting
who
in
made
front
it.
of you what you're gonna want. What's that?
I said, you know who made it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're good at
And
that.
and then it's like but then also like very easy to follow. So like anyone can get a lot of followers. That's the brilliance of it too. So you get like not famous people
So we're
who have
famous
pretty
now.
fun content,
Sure.
funny, whatever, who
Sure.
become in TikTok, and it's way easier than the other apps to get famous.
Okay.
But also can't geo, and they bury anything that I go like, hey, I'm gonna be performing in wherever, that gets buried because
They
that's
don't
not.
like that because it's not like virtual. It's like you're trying to self promote yourself where you're at.
I think, I mean, I'd have to actually talk to somebody, but if I'm theorizing, like the brilliance of the app is the addictiveness of just
I know.
swiping
Yeah,
through.
I totally get that.
So anytime you're promoting something, you're kind of taking people away from the app a little bit.
Sure.
And it's not humor, teaching. These are the things, humor does well, teaching does well, super hot does well,
Sure.
lip syncing of a funny thing, that's what does, good sound does well. Well, it's
Okay.
not good sound. It sounds, right? So it's not good
Sure.
sound to be like, hey, come see me at the
Yeah.
Chuckle
Yeah.
fucking hut or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I get that. Yeah.
And you can't lip sync. Nobody's gonna lip sync that because it's so specific to
Sure.
you,
Right. Well,
or
and it's
duets or whatever. Yeah.
right, and it doesn't fit the criteria of like that's a song that I know and like, and then it already has however many million views, and then
Right.
send you lip singing ads.
Yep.
It's interesting because I don't care. I can say how old I'm almost 32, and
Okay.
I definitely am that generation that I remember like MySpace,
Mm-hmm.
like that coming out and being this like not that big of a deal. It was still so much more about like going with your friends and fucking getting shit faced to now, well, now to like seeing the generation that's like, I mean, they live in like these online worlds, like OnlyFans, or I don't know if you're allowed to say that. It's like this huge
Sure.
monopoly of like uh commercialized sex or commercialized
Your personal life
activity.
is
Yeah,
commercialized. Yeah.
it's crazy.
And
So
it's like been great for someone who wants to be like a comedian or podcasting. That's
yeah,
really great for us. But then I watch like I won't name a name on this, but I saw someone recently who released something online that was funny. I'll just go
I'm
with that.
sure.
And then I had heard I like this person personally, and I like their comedy.
Sure.
But I'd heard like a rumbling of something of misbehavior by them, and I was like, oh yeah, what was that? And then I went into a rabbit hole of looking into
Sure,
it
of course, why not, right?
because of a number of reasons, curiosity, but also like, what was it?
Yeah,
And
you now
also
become
like,
a detective and it's your goal to figure out
yeah.
exactly, you need to do pros and cons of if this person, deserves moral, sort of standings at this point. It's
Well,
crazy.
and that's the thing of like, I think that's fair. I think I should know like who I'm associating with, but then
Sure.
also like there are levels, and it's hard because a lot of people, when someone does something terrible, don't want to acknowledge that there are levels of misbehavior.
Sure.
But within the law and within our own personal interactions, there's levels. And so I wanted to know what the level was
Yeah, you're like,
because,
let me see if
you
you're
know,
going mild, medium, or fucking like
yeah, and
jalapeno pepper.
sometimes I share this person's content because I like them. So I'm like, all
Sure.
right, I
Yeah,
better,
you gotta know. You go down just as easy.
uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good way to phrase it. And
Yeah.
then so I looked and I was like, I won't say what my conclusion was about. I just really don't want, but the overall point is like, I looked at it and went, yeah, I don't want to be famous.
Sure. I talk about that all the time too, where it's like
Yeah,
it's the scrutiny that comes with it is like it's a level of like it's almost like insanity. It's like it goes past the throwing stones when you live in a glass house. It's like
Hmm.
we're talking about like I sometimes because I think about that too. So for a long time
Sure.
on social media, I didn't ever promote that I was a stripper. I kind of like kept those two lives separate.
Right.
And then I entered into this like, well, fuck, I've been doing this for so long. And it's such an outlet that if you promote yourself, it brings you in money. It's a kind of like a part of my life that would be hard for me to like make go away if that was what
Right.
ended up being something that I wanted to do. And it really started to make me think of like, well, at this point, fuck it, because I'm never going to be in a position where if somebody didn't look hard enough, they couldn't find out that I was a stripper somewhere
Right.
at some point. And it takes away that, like, oh God, almost like the elusiveness of like being able to feel like you can be one way with a certain set of people because that's what they're comfortable with. But then you have another
Right.
set of people that you're like, oh, well, I get down with them a little bit more. So I'll be a little bit more comfortable. But then, God forbid, if someone from this other group talks to the other person, and then they're like, you're a
Uh,
fucking fraud, you know? Like,
yeah, it's like you're living you feel forced into living forced into living a lie is too strong, but yeah. But you're like, well, you created this for me by not
yeah,
approving of what I do. So it's like,
it's like,
I mean, at a
I,
low level, I hide jokes from my mom at a low level. That's
sure.
like a low level of what you're describing.
Right, right,
Because
right.
I'm like, well, you
You wouldn't get
caused
it.
this. You
Yeah,
caused this.
yeah, yeah.
And then she'll see or find something out or whatever. She found out about this, right? And it was,
God
because I promoted on
forbid.
social
Yeah.
media, and then Cory, it was a text message, and I like Cory, and
Yeah.
uncomfortableness, and I go, hey, this is uplifting, positive, totally, and I
Sure.
used to teach high school,
Yeah.
so I know
I'm
that there are, and you quit if you quit teaching high school and you don't retire, then there's going to be people who go, oh,
yeah.
what happened
What
there?
happened? Yeah,
So
exactly.
I know that exists, and it's like whatever.
Sure.
And former students come to shows, and some of them I drink with. There's a buddy in Phoenix that I golf with every time down there. We drink. He's not my student anymore. He's my friend now.
Right. Well, I
You
mean,
know,
it's different like associations in that sense. It's
right?
like the same thing of like,
He's 35. Like he's
yeah,
not my
well, exactly.
student.
Like you're
He's
probably not going to say a dick joke to your kid when he's 5, but at fucking
right.
25, you better believe you're going to say a dick joke.
And then people come see a show and they jokingly go, "I'm glad you're not my kid's teacher." And I'm like, "You realize
Sure.
it's not. I don't. I
Yeah.
teach. I
I
teach
actually practice
history.
all my
Like
jokes at school first. I run it by the toughest critics because everybody knows that kids don't bullshit.
You guys
Yeah.
finger? Have you done that?
Yeah.
It's not. All right, let's see. So,
Yeah. I
anyhow, so it's a
totally
low
get that.
level version of what you're talking about. But so then, from your perspective, it's like so like family. Do they know or care,
Yeah, so
or who
it's
do
a
you keep
here's
it
I okay,
from, or
well here's
what?
the thing. I'm not from Tahoe originally.
Hmm.
Actually, I am born and raised in Las Vegas.
Okay.
So, I grew up in a world of like when I went to high school, so I was a freshman, there were girls that were seniors that drove BMWs and fucking Mercedes, and us little freshmen would be like, what the fuck is that girl
How's
doing? You
that
know?
possible?
Yeah. And you're like, oh, well, she works at Deja Vu on the weekends. And like,
Ah,
and
wow.
it's a different world, you know? So
Yeah.
I grew up in that. And um actually, I had a daughter really young. I got
Hmm.
pregnant at 16. I had my daughter at 17. And I lived in Miami for a little bit and I went and auditioned at a club when I was 17.
Okay.
Crazy. Shouldn't have done that, especially not in Miami. I'm surprised that I ever even walked another strip club after that because it was the craziest shit I've ever
Is
seen.
that
You
legal?
know? Uh,
All right. Okay.
probably
Yeah. All
not.
right. All right. All right.
So I had my daughter, and I remember the day I turned 18, I started stripping. I was like in the strip club, and it happened that fast. And it wasn't necessarily that like my family knows, you know, and I grew
Hmm.
up in a very religious, like Roman
Hmm.
Catholic family, and my grandmother's super devout. And I
Ah.
remember her being like, well, like you're beautiful and we get it and and whatnot. And it was like this
Okay.
really, and it was a really strange thing where it's like when you live in a place or you grow up in a place like Vegas, and I'm talking like where sex is at now or whatever you want to call it and how commercialized it is, that
Hmm.
was already going on 20 years ago there. Like
Right.
I used to walk the strip when I was 12 years old and collect the little prostitute cards the little people would hand out because we're like, they just
Yeah.
keep handing them to you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
take them. So I guess
Whereas
that,
I went to my friend's house to go sledding at 13 and walked in there watching porn, and I was like,
yeah,
ah,
like,
I thought we were going
my
sledding.
God. Yeah, exactly.
Can we
Yeah.
go sledding? I don't
Yeah.
like that.
Listen,
No.
ew. Yeah,
No.
gross. So I guess I've benefited from the fact that like I've never really I guess you'd say like have to hide it. It was not something like I'm not on the I totally like love my best friend is super forward and outgoing with
Hmm.
herself and being a stripper. And I'm not like that either, though. Like in my day-to-day life, I don't broadcast that I'm a stripper, So
Sure.
it's like there's like levels to how open you are
Sure.
with it because there's a lot of judgment that comes with it, like
Right.
you don't know who you're going to talk to that's like, oh my God, so what you're meaning to say is that you're a fucking slut, like so
Right.
you have to pick and choose who you're like, oh, this is what I do. And somebody who's going to be accepting, just be like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's a job. And then other people are like, so you're a whore and, and you
Yeah,
love
and
sex and,
yeah, and then there's the thing of like, and then it brings in a whole new realm of like conversation or question, which is like, well, not for that reason at least,
Yeah, no,
or
definitely not
like
for that one.
maybe I
Yeah.
am, but
Yeah.
not
Who
because I
cares?
strip.
Yeah,
But also,
exactly.
who cares if I am? But also, that's none of your business if I am. But also, I know nothing about your sex life, so why would you, whatever. Like, unless you're close to me and I share it with you because I want to, why would you? But yeah, there is presumptions of like, and it's interesting because you said you don't really like you'd have a glass of wine, right? But you don't really drink a
Right.
lot, or wouldn't take a shot in the middle of the day like this
Sure.
degenerate.
Yeah.
But
Listen, you're going to get sponsored. So there's a lot more of
hey,
that.
um, but in my experience of only frequenting clubs, but also doing interviews over the last 2.5 years, in general, women of the same age as the women I've interviewed, let's say 21 to 33 ish,
Sure.
and some other, whatever, um, are the strippers I've interviewed are less promiscuous as far as I can tell,
Sure.
and not in a bad or good way, like more monogamous, less promiscuous. A lot of them are sober or leaning more that way than
Sure.
um, uh,
Sometimes
you
yes,
know.
maybe no. Yeah.
A bunch of them are in recover. Not a bunch, but like plenty are in recovery. Like
Sure.
there's like all these things that like not only are people shitty to assume it, but they're like I think statistically probably wrong. Like I don't think it's quite. I don't know, but your experience in the clubs might inform us a little bit more
Well,
on that. I don't know.
it depends on where you are. So
Sure. Yeah.
I've done it all. I started in Vegas working there. I did little clubs there. I did big clubs there. It depends on it depends on what the rapport of the club is. So I started
Mhm.
at a very small club and now looking back to it, I'm like, oh, well, there was probably a lot of prostitutes in there because like those were the type of people that frequent it. You could tell that they're called they're called baby clubs. So there's clubs full nude, no alcohol in
Mhm.
Vegas that are, most 18 to 20-year-old girls work there because you can't work at the big girl clubs.
Gotcha.
So the men that go in there, and it's like, it's crazy to think of when I think back to it, are either very much older, creepy men,
Mm.
younger kids that are like fucking probably spending their like financial aid money, and
Okay.
pimps. And like those are the three type
Uh,
of people that go into those clubs. So
hmm.
you go to like a small club like that, and then I worked at a bigger little girl club, which is like Deja Vu, which is a chain, and they're a lot more
Yeah.
they promote like the partying and like, oh, it's here for a good time and it's full nude. And even though we don't have alcohol, like you'll still have a good time. So there's like a difference between those.
Okay.
Then when you go to the bigger clubs, so then when I turned 21, I went to like a big girl club and like,
Hmm.
Sapphire and Spearmint Rhino. I mean, it's like
Right.
a fucking different world in there, like
Right.
you have people that are spending so much money that girls get into this like, well, I need to party because I need to be fun for these people,
Gotcha.
like that's like this like stigma that comes with it. And then a lot of girls come out of that. You'll see, maybe you talk to girls that are, and then they realize that they're like, fuck, I've spent the last 5 years just like drinking you don't realize when
Sure.
when I would work a lot, people would be like, oh, do you want to go out? And I'm like, ew, fuck no. Like I go out every
Yeah.
single night. Like I'm at the party every single night. So
Right.
you start to get into this place where you're like, ooh, I want to be able to like wake up tomorrow morning and not, throw up for 2 hours. And then like
Sure.
you meet a lot of girls that get a bit older that they either go one of two routes. They either like start not drinking that much in the club or they just like commit fully and they're like, well, I need 5 drinks to start
They
working
even
because
do this. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, to even fucking
Huh.
walk into this building.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
that makes sense in Vegas for the yeah, that all makes sense in Vegas. Um and then besides Vegas, but like Bend, Oregon is like significantly different in terms of just the culture of the city.
Sure.
Um
Well, there's okay, so
yeah.
I've done
So
I've been dancing now.
Miami, like yeah.
Yeah, Miami's fucking crazy. I don't think I went back to Miami once when I was oh god, 20 with a girlfriend of mine. It's just a different it's a different world down there. Like
Right.
it's different. There's drugs and and it's like you have to be really, really, really thick skinned to work there.
Hmm.
And even when you have enough thick skin to work there, you're still like, fuck this place.
Oh,
Like it's
interesting.
just, yeah, or at least for me and the few girls that I've definitely along the way, I've met a network of girls that were like, we only go to Miami if there's like some fucking, we know who is going to this club and we know that they're going to spend, $100,000 or something.
Right.
So I did Vegas for a bit and then I moved to California and I actually moved to like a small little town. Do you know where Eureka, California is?
Yeah, my
Okay,
friend has a
so
joke about it. She
yeah.
just posted on TikTok. She said Eureka is conservative hippies who smoke weed or something like that. Like
Sure.
or like conservatives who smoke weed or some version of that was her
It's a
explanation.
very, yeah, like on the outside looking in, it's like a logging town and then everybody grew weed. Anyway, I moved
Hmm.
there and it was like a fucking gold mine because there was one club there. It's the same
Yeah.
situation kind of as, and there was all these people that grew weed and it's not legal money. So they didn't have anywhere to spend their illegal money
Cash.
other
Yeah.
than strip clubs and like
Hmm.
used car lots.
All right.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
worked
Okay.
there for a long time and
Huh.
like it was
Lived
amazing.
lived and worked there.
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah. Like there's this, you can find it on YouTube and it was really funny because they tried to do a reality show there. We had like a
Mm.
guy come in because it's like it was so fucking weird. Like it was this weird place with like these really weird hill people that just had insane amount of money that would go in there and like they had no perception of like maybe I shouldn't spend 10 grand in 1 hour and so it was
Like
funny.
that win the lottery show when you watch that and people go,
Exactly.
"Oh, what do I do
Their
with
money
all
grew
this?"
on trees, like
Mm.
literally.
Ah, that's funny.
So yeah, it's funny. Um, and so I was there for a long time, and then I stopped dancing for a little bit, and I ended up going back, and it almost felt like a fucking time warp. I was like, oh my God, I'm still in the same building with these same fucking weird people that come in here, and like I can't do it anymore. And
Okay.
I talked to one of my friends, a dancer, and I was talking to her about going to Alaska. So Alaska is a big thing in the summertime, like bush company is what they call it. Fishermen come in, and like
Ah,
it's a big thing. And she was like, "Well, listen, before you go there, go and try Bend." And I was like, "Really? Like this fucking?" I was like, "You wouldn't say Portland
sure.
or something like that?"
Right, right.
And she was like, "No, go to Bend." And I ended up going there, and it's been the best club I have ever worked at like in respects of like what you hope to achieve at a strip club as a stripper, I guess you'd say.
Which is
Which is okay for me. I have a set of like, I listened to one of your podcasts and it was a girl in Utah and she was like, they don't allow lap dances there, which is fucking crazy.
no wild.
That's like your bread and
Yeah, yeah.
butter, you know?
So like Salt Lake City, but if you go to Salt Lake City, it's interesting because I'll just quickly say, so that was either Molly the
I think
Mormon.
it was Molly. Yeah.
She goes by Molly the Mormon or stripper, and um, if you go to the club though, it's a pretty wild, not wild, but it's like a lot is fun. It's a lot of
Sure.
fun happening. A
Sure.
lot of
Sure.
drinks flowing, a lot
Yeah.
of money being thrown on the stage because that's the only way to
It's like a party.
it's the only way. And then a
Yeah.
lot of the women will sit at the rail or the rack and they'll participate as well. That may have just been because regulars or friends were there. I don't know because I've only
Sure.
been twice to that club. But just interest and I was always, I don't, money is a taboo slash tacky thing to talk about. So we just try and talk about it in
Sure.
a way that's whatever the
Skim
person's
over it. Sure.
comfortable with. But like as I was like, it's interesting because it's definitely way more money than most. I don't want to say most, but a lot of clubs that I
Sure.
see make on stage.
Sure.
But if there's zero opportunity for anything beyond the
Yeah.
stage,
It's like a ticking
I don't know how
clock.
you're
You're like,
doing it. Yeah.
well, and not only that, so I've been in like, I mean, that's the thing in Vegas, you pay to go off stage. Like, you don't even want to fucking go on stage.
Yeah,
Because
right.
that fucks with your hustle. And
Yeah.
then I've never worked at a club where you only go on stage, but I've definitely worked at clubs where like you make a lot of money on stage. And it's like this anxiety feeling of being like, okay, these guys are throwing money and I've got 3 girls ahead of me in rotation. Like, are they still going to be up there by the time I get there? And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's like a high pressure environment as opposed to when you talk to a guy and you're like, hey, do you want to do an hour with me? And they're like, sure.
Sure.
It's like, it's a
There you
different,
go. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Where do we go?
And there's got to be some security slash insecurity slash ego involved too. I mean, I don't know, but like as a comedian,
Okay.
if I'm up next and what happens all the time is the people wait to go to the bathroom or whatever, smoke
Sure.
until a comedian finishes.
Sure.
And they don't want to go while they're on stage, which is actually relatively polite. But
Sure.
that means when you're next and someone steps off and a bunch of people leave, you go like,
Yeah, you got to bring, yeah, it's like on to you to bring them back,
and it clearly has nothing to do with me. They haven't even
No.
met me yet. They don't know
Right.
nothing about me. There's nothing to do with me. But then I go, God damn, like that stinks. And I've witnessed situations where someone on stage is getting so much money because they're doing well, music choice, whatever the reason,
Sure, yeah.
whatever the probably long list of possible reasons that is, luck, whatever.
Yeah, you'll love that.
Um,
Good rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you go, oh no, this person's great. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
They're talented. They're
Yeah, I don't want to
whatever,
go after
but
her. Yeah,
it fucking
exactly.
just didn't all line.
It's the
So,
same thing.
so do you go like, do you feel like you have a healthy sense of like, it's just the breaks?
Um,
Or do you go like, oh my God, that's going to bother me for the
no,
next
I mean, maybe when I was
3 hours?
younger,
Like, okay, right.
yeah, when I was younger, maybe it was definitely like more of an ego thing, but it's so funny because I have totally, when I was younger, I was like pole tricks and fucking who knows what up there. Now, hell
Okay.
no, I don't do shit up there. I am considered the slowest mover it is because I'm like, well, listen, I have found one of 2 things. One, the way that you look, like the way that I look at a strip club, it's like a buffet for men,
Okay.
like it's the one time that you get to walk into a building and be very specific about who you like. You don't have
Sure.
to be like, okay, well, I really like brunettes with tattoos, but I'm in the bar and this girl's only a brunette. I'll talk to
So
her.
I guess.
Exactly. I'll
Yeah,
go in. When you go to the strip
yeah,
club, you're
yeah.
like, I want a girl that's blonde, big boobs, like,
Smorgasbord, yeah.
exactly. So I've come to find out, like going on both sides of it, that one, you usually pull the people to your stage, no matter who you're after, that we're gonna come and want to look at
That
you anyway.
happened too, yeah.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
you're their type,
You
like
check some
yeah,
boxes, yeah.
you fit the bill. Then I have also found, and I think it's like pull tricks are fucking beautiful. And like the girls that do them a lot, they'll get a lot of guys that will like just throw money at that because it
Sure,
looks like you're doing acrobats and shit.
sure.
Most men want you in their face. Like
Yeah.
if they put $5 down and they get some boobs in their face, they're
I
like,
mean, it's
I'm gonna put
cool,
another
but
$5 down. Exactly.
yeah,
Like, can you come
yeah,
a little bit closer? So I'm
yeah.
like,
And yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
so
interesting.
yeah, so it's like I've never, and I guess I should say it's definitely like I fit a stripper look, I guess you'd say. So no matter what I feel like when I'm in the strip club, when I go on stage, somebody's gonna come up there because
Sure.
I fit a look. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't imagine if that was all that it was riding on. Like if I was like,
Gotcha.
okay, there's one more girl and they're changing some ones, but I don't know if they're like going back,
Yeah,
and it's like
yeah,
pressure, So
yeah. That is interesting. That yeah, I would yeah, I don't know. I can't recall how we discussed it with because I've interviewed three. I lost one interview like an idiot. Well, I didn't lose it like an idiot. My hard drive failed, so what are you
okay.
gonna do? And didn't have a good backup. It was just whatever. And that was a woman who dances in Salt Lake City. Those two women were interviewed. There was two women interviewed on the same day, Molly and oh shit. Anyway,
Okay.
they came together to the hotel room because they were probably like, "Hey, let's."
Yeah, we're gonna go together and then pin
Yeah,
our location.
Molly and I had lunch before, so I feel like she was like, what she was fine, but like
Sure.
the other woman had never met me and was probably like,
Yeah.
eh.
I'll go for moral
And
support.
yeah, I had to like sweet talk them into doing two separate interviews so I could
Sure.
get two out of the, because
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. Out of the
at that,
deal.
yeah,
You're
at
like,
that
listen, we're not
point.
combining them.
At that point, losing half of it was like such a big deal. It still is, but like it was such a big deal to be like, oh, I can't have, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but um, but yeah. So then, for you, and everywhere you've worked, essentially, you I won't say need, but want to translate your work on the floor
Oh
or work on the
yeah.
stage
Oh yeah.
to a
Lap
dance or
dances,
multiple
the
dances
VIP
or
rooms. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, that's like, and again, I've never worked in a club that you only have to do
sure,
stage. So I mean, I don't really have anything to compare it to, but I just know personally, like my skill in the strip club environment is that like I'm very easy to talk to. And it's almost this like weird thing because it's like sounds vain, but I'm really pretty and I'm like almost
sure,
intimidating looking to men. So when I sit with them, they assume that I'm going to be this like raging bitch, like they're going to be like, oh, fuck this girl.
sure,
And I'm able to just like chop it up with people about anything. I
yeah,
grew up with men and it's like a skill that I'm like, oh, I can talk about football. I can talk about sports. I can talk about anything that you want to talk
right,
about. We can talk about. And that translates to men in the strip club of being like, oh, well, I like her, like,
right,
and then that bridges the gap to being like, oh, damn, I like her and she's hot. Let's do some lap dances,
sure,
which is
yeah,
the easiest money in the sense of like when you're talking time frame and whatnot. Because the stage thing, you're up there for most clubs are like 2 to 3 songs, so
right,
you're up there 6 to 9 minutes, and then you have to wait who fucking knows how long to then get that opportunity again. Where
yeah,
when you're working the floor, you talk to one guy, he doesn't want to dance. Well, then you go whoever else is in the
yeah,
building,
yeah, yeah.
So
Interesting. And at Stars, where you currently work, occasionally you said
yeah.
just because you're in because Bend and Tahoe are a drive away from each
They
other.
are a drive away
Okay.
from each other. Yes.
Okay. I don't even know how far, but
It's far
and
enough.
then what's that?
I said it's far enough.
4, 5, 6. Okay.
7.5.
All right.
No.
That's a
But see,
jaunt.
that should show you. So the thing with Bend, and I'm not sure how Portland is. I hear that Portland's really fucking crazy, but the thing with Bend is it's full nude. it's full alcohol, and there's no
Hmm.
touching. And that's like a trifecta because
Yeah.
it puts you in this like position of control, like
For
everybody's
you
supposed.
guys. Just kidding.
Sure, exactly. Boo, nobody wants
No,
that,
that's no, that's the way it should. That's the way. I mean, in my humble opinion, that's the way every club. That's the way most clubs should be. I mean, you know.
Sure.
I mean,
To each
that's
their, but
perfect.
I talked to some girls
The whole
though.
point of the yeah.
It goes all ways though, because it's just dependent on where you work. So I
Hmm.
work with girls in Bend that I
Hmm.
mean, we love the rules. We're like, oh, you can't, there's no grinding there. If
Sure.
I was to go to Vegas, like I have girls that work there and they're like, ew, I'd rather grind on a guy and let him grab my boobs because I don't have to talk to him, and like we do this dance and it's done, and
Fair. Yeah.
it depends on like where you're at, and what you get
Well,
desensitized to.
yeah, and the phrase "no touching" is interesting. A thing of like, so this is why people should listen. This is why because it's different everywhere you go, and it's
Sure.
important to ask the rules and know them as a customer. And um, but like I'd say the vast majority of places that I go are no touching, but from the customer to you.
Sure.
And you,
I can touch
as
you.
the stripper,
Yes.
can do what you choose.
Great
And
lap
to
dances. Yeah.
me, yeah, to me, again, control and people, but to me, a woman touching me, potentially on a place that I really enjoy being
Yeah.
touched,
That I was hoping to
is
get near.
yeah, is so much better
Yeah. Then you're like,
than
yeah.
my palm
Yeah.
touching her butt.
Yeah.
So like
Exactly.
I don't have a bunch of nerve endings.
Yeah.
You know
You're
what I'm
like,
saying? Like
listen, everything touches my hand.
yeah, yeah. So it's touched me so many times, and
Yeah.
so
And it's
yeah, I
more
guess
that area than the hand that's getting anything out of
yeah, but
it.
I
Yeah.
get why, because like a little bit of like I'm I guess control or like I'm convincing myself that what I'm doing is you're enjoying, I guess, but like
Sure.
come on.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so yeah, it's a
Yeah.
little. So to
But
me, like getting a lap dance, sitting on my hands and letting the woman do whatever she's comfortable doing or allowed to do or whatever makes more sense to me.
yeah, well, and you have to think of it
But
almost, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, unless you go to the miracle places that are like, well, you give me this hot dance and I'm touching you and you're touching me, and then you're like, oh, that worked out well.
sure.
you
But
know
I guess yes. I'm not trying to be like I don't get why touching girls is hot.
yeah, no,
Like
no, no, I know what you mean. It's if
I
you have to
get
choose
why
between
touching a
one.
boob, like amazing, beautiful boob that I would never be allowed to touch any other time, is like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, not too
I get
bad.
that, but
Yeah,
I just mean like a tap of the butt or a touch your shoulder or like I don't like I don't want to.
I
I'd
don't need any more of
rather
that. Yeah,
you go ahead and touch me, and then we're
right.
not breaking any rules. Also,
Well, in those
and great.
situations too, you got girls that they look at you and they're like, "Oh, look, he's listening and he's not trying to touch me. I'm going to give him a really good dance."
Respect,
Because
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's like a power or like a control thing. You
sure.
feel like you're in control of the situation, and then you're like, "Okay, this person is respecting what I told them. Now I'm going to give them a really fucking good dance because why not?" Like
I
they're
mean,
being
that's my mindset of what I
yeah.
think of. Yeah, but the guys so kind of maybe I don't know. They figure that out. But anyway, so stars. You said we'll rewind a minute to the trifecta of alcohol, full nude, which is rare.
It is.
Um, Portland, of course, does that in multiple clubs, but also Portland's just weird and you can't
Yeah,
really
but you know what's so crazy is we
judge
get
it based on what they do.
sure.
They're a whole nother world of
Yeah, I'm not.
yeah.
It's interesting because it's like I've never worked in Portland, and I've talked to a
Hmm.
few girls that work there, and I've heard that they definitely like they're over the boundaries. It's like it's crazy there. We in Bend, we get a lot of guys that come there in the summer from Portland for bachelor parties because there's very much, I think, a line for a lot of men that they want to have a good time and they want to be at a strip club, but they at least want to walk out feeling like they like didn't do something that they're gonna like regret, like. And I think that that happens in Portland. And again, I've never worked
Right.
there. It's just going off of like what girls have told me and whatnot. So
Sure.
you get these guys that are married or getting married or with significant others that are like, hey, we're going out and we're having a good time, but I don't know if I want to be the one that puts a dildo in her pussy, like that's like that maybe is crossing the line, So
Yeah, and like so yeah. So my experience in going to them is like it's just there's a lot of similar things going on in Portland strip clubs, and there's a lot of differences. Um, my experience is that the rules are pretty relatively strict. There's a place in particular where I go, but mostly it's the women making all the decisions
oh,
on
I'm
what
sure. Yeah, yeah,
happens
yeah.
and whatever. Um, Bringing women on stage occasionally, and you're
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh, is
yeah,
that
oh,
that
yeah. I
seems like
can
it's
wait.
probably against the
Nobody's stopping
law.
that.
All
Okay,
right.
all right. I guess it's
Um,
consent.
yeah, yeah, and but there's also an element of like sometimes you just feel like you're in a bar,
Yeah, yeah,
um, and
no,
it doesn't necessarily feel like it's all that different than a dive bar or a regular.
sure.
And to the point that like there's a couple clubs that I've been in where they'll have a woman designated to sort of walk around with a bucket, like, hey, remember, you're not just at a bar.
Yeah,
And you
she's
go,
up
oh yeah, that's
there.
right.
Yeah, you're
Shit,
like, oh
sorry. Yeah,
goodness,
you're
I'm
great.
sorry.
You know.
Drink.
And and so I can see if you are, and some of them are packed, like all the time, and so that's the thing. And so I could see like if you, and then there's downtown versus not downtown
Right,
versus, so
right.
there's all these different. And I could see a scenario where, and you want to get away, you go, I want to get away from my bachelor party. But yeah,
Sure.
like anyway, that's interesting. But you have this scenario where you have um the ability to have men and women drinking, but they're not really. It gets shut down pretty quick in my experience at your
Oh my
club
God,
if
it's the craziest shit
it's
I have ever
touching.
seen. They turn the lights on. Like that is, have you been there at the end of the night? Like
I
so
was there at the end of the night recently, and I was there one time where I feel like there's a chance I'm wrong about this, but I feel
okay.
like we were just getting situated. There used to be dances up
Up
by the
top.
DJ booth.
Right, they're
Yeah.
changing that now.
Yeah, and there wasn't this last time I was there. They were only in the back room last
Right.
time I was there.
Hmm.
And in I believe we were getting situated, and she was arranging her body and sitting, and there was maybe a touch of her butt in that process,
Yum.
and it was.
Was it like a was it like
No,
was
one
that
guy
like
came over and he was like, "Hey, none of that." And I was like, "Oh my
was
gosh,
it
I
the
don't even
tattooed
know."
guy? Did you
This
see
is
him?
years ago. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
recall.
Okay.
So yeah,
I was gonna say we have a bouncer there that like I think he like takes it personally that he thinks
I
every one of us is his
well,
girlfriend, and sure,
well, maybe not
it's
girlfriend, but yeah,
yeah,
okay, yeah, yeah.
sure, somewhere along the lines to where he's like, you're like, oh, Drew's walking around, so you better go your best fucking behavior because
Hey,
he's not gonna fuck around,
fair enough.
But
But that's, I mean, that's better than free for all, and you guys being like, "What the fuck, man? Come on!"
sure, it
And I get that.
definitely is, yeah.
I get that.
But yeah, Bend is interesting because the cutoff time. I almost want to say the cutoff time for drinking is at 2:30. I'm not sure. You could correct me on that. In Oregon, I
It
don't know.
depends. Probably COVID. Who fucking knows
Sure,
anymore? But
but
yeah.
they stop serving alcohol at 1:30. They're like
Hmm.
super strict. They're very like they try to stay in the good graces
Oh, I see
of
what you're saying. I see.
whoever.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when that club closes at 2, they turn on the fucking lights. And I'm not talking about like a few lights. It's like bright at you should see
And
like
you
the
guys are
girls,
like, Jesus Christ,
yeah,
this is
like
not...
the girls start scurrying to the back.
Hey.
It's like they're like, holy shit, like because nobody wants to be that person that's like bright, like, oh, it's fucking crazy.
Oh.
Oh yeah, it's like, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
But it
funny.
works because it gets everybody out of the fucking club. They're like, listen, we close at 2. I've worked at plenty of clubs. A lot of clubs in Vegas are like 24 hours, but other clubs
Sure.
where if there's people in there spending money, they'll like keep music going. They're like, oh, people, hell no. Bet
Yeah.
they tell you when there's the last 3 songs and then it is done. Like if you didn't get them during that time, lights are on and you're getting the fuck out the door. So it's like, it's kind
So
of
this is
interesting.
probably where Seattle or maybe all of Washington has gone wrong because Seattle in so many ways is very similar to Portland, but in terms of sex work, or at least strippers, I don't know about the rest of sex work. I don't really know. It is very strict in Seattle.
Yeah.
Um, and
Which is interesting because Seattle's
yeah,
like a
super liberal,
yeah,
progressive,
super liberal. Yeah. I
whatever.
mean, that's the same thing with California though. I don't work in California anymore because it's if there's full alcohol, you can't even show boobs anymore. You're in pasties.
Yeah,
And it's like
pasties, interesting.
it's like
The whole
we live in
state, or is that a city by
no, whole
city, or
state. Whole state.
really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, and I mean, what's interesting about liberal slash conservative with respect to a strip club is that you get liberal enough and you find folks who are like, you find a group of folks who are like, this is demeaning and this is, this can
Sure.
be,
Sure.
you get conservative religious or whatever folks who go, oh my God, this is demeaning, this is terrible. But you get some like super liberal folks too, or a certain type of liberal person, I guess, who goes like, this is a direct line to sex trafficking. This is and you're like, well,
Sure. Definitely. Yeah.
doesn't
I
have to
mean, and then
be, and
and then
it's
you're
not
like, well, there's a
not
few more things you got to
necessarily.
get to before we get to sex trafficking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
I know.
my one experience in a my basically one experience in a Seattle strip club was on my birthday. Before, so I was married. I started dating her at 17,
Oh
got
wow.
married at 22,
Okay.
married till 33. We were conservative Christian kids in high school, chose that ourselves because we were nerds and it just matched up with our lifestyle.
Yeah.
We're like,
Because you're
hey,
really cool at the
we're
time.
nerds. You guys are
Yeah,
nerds.
exactly.
Um, and the joke trying to do right now is my dad was very disappointed. He was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're gonna be
Boo.
a
Yeah.
Jesus, huh?" And you're like,
Ew. Yeah,
yeah. And
really?
he's like,
He loves me.
cool. He's
Yeah.
my father. All
Yeah,
right.
exactly. And then
And
shut
he's
up.
like, "You're not gonna drink or have sex?" And I was like, "Mm-mm." And he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, not even
I'm gonna
Fireball and
save that.
fingering?
Yeah,
Like
like
nothing."
nothing. You don't want to touch a
Uh,
titty before you enter into the
Fireball doesn't
world.
even count. Fingering doesn't count. And I'm
Oh
like,
my God. I grew
Jesus said no. So
oh,
then so this has been told on the podcast, so I'll be quick. But 33 is when we got a divorce, and when I'd only had sex with her, and so there was this time frame when we were still together, but we knew we weren't going to be together,
sure.
and so I was like, I've literally never been on a date except for middle school, like high school dance,
Yeah.
and I've never slept with anybody or even tried to
Right.
because I've only been with her.
What a faithful husband.
And I was faithful. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so I was like we were still living together. She was going to move out. And I went to I went to Seattle one on my birthday. And it was like, the one was like, well, I'll give you a dance. And it was great. And then there was like there was a decent amount of like dirtiness to
Sure.
what she was willing to do or they were
Sure.
willing. And I was like, I think this is, maybe I don't know shit about shit. But if you take away nudity and you take away alcohol,
Yeah,
you're
what
gonna
else
get
do you
a
got
certain
left?
you're gonna
Yeah.
get a certain kind of guy,
Yeah. Who wants to get jerked off through his pants? Yeah. Like,
and
listen. Yeah.
you're gonna back the women into a little bit of a corner
Where
of
you feel
like,
like
well,
you
if you
have
want
to
to
do
make
that. Yeah,
money,
exactly.
and
It's
so to me, it seems like a little bit more liberal rules would result in a little bit less creepy behavior, but I don't know. Like, I don't,
oh no, I mean that's 100% because you get in a position where I mean, take Bend for instance. It's like a level of comfortability that you're like, okay, everybody's drinking, which makes it super less awkward because
Mhm.
like then it's nude, which like when people think of nude, I totally think it's like ew, but it's like there's
Sure,
like this level of it being like, oh wow, that's a really beautiful woman, or oh wow, she's like comfortable with her body to
sure.
show it. And then when you add in the like, oh, and she's in control of like there's no touching, so it's more of like it and it's like this, like, I wouldn't say like an art thing, but it's just like it's this
Sure.
situation where people feel comfortable, because they're like it's taken the
It's not
obvious.
like, oh my God,
Yeah, you're
wow,
not
this
like,
is
holy
crazy.
shit, yeah, I
Yeah,
went to the sex club, so it's like,
right,
but when you don't have those things, you're right, you get the men that think that you're going to grind on their dick until they come, like that's what they're
right.
expecting, because they don't have alcohol and they don't get to look at pussy. Like if you don't
Yeah.
have those two things, there's only a third that is, why else would you be there,
A
like.
little bit in the mind of a man, unless you're there with a group, in which
Yeah.
case, but even then, you're not drinking. So
Yeah, then it makes it even fucking weirder. Like,
and it's right by the one main club. There's multiple, but the main club is right by the baseball park and the football field, and it's like, and they try and,
yeah, sure.
obviously try to get folks to come over from those places, and you're like,
Yeah, why would I
it's
do
a
that?
certain kind of person that goes to a
Yeah,
baseball and a
exactly.
football game
Why would,
too.
yeah,
So you're
exactly. Well,
really
and it's either that,
narrowing. Yeah.
well, not only that, it's like then you get those people that are going to leave and they're either going to walk into somewhere. Do they have alcohol in the Seattle clubs?
Yes and no. Not
Oh,
allowed.
okay. So yeah, so it's like, so you get people that walk in there that either they have alcohol, but it's super strict, and then they feel like they might as well be in a bar, or they have no alcohol,
Hmm.
and then it's like really awkward,
Yeah.
and then they're like, well, if I'm here,
And you have to buy, and there's no food either at this
oh
particular
God,
club.
yeah.
So there's no food, and you're like asked to either cover and buy drinks, or cover and it covers two drinks or something
Yeah,
like.
you're like,
But
what
you're
are some
like,
fucking
all right,
Pepsis?
I'll do
Like,
Pepsis there's just a lot of sweatpants dudes,
yeah,
and you're
oh,
like, well, I
gross.
don't
Listen, that is
know.
never acceptable. Like, and I don't know who. I mean, somebody that came up with it, genius, because it's gotten like
Sure.
away for a long time. But you're now put in the category. Like, sir, you came in here in sweatpants. Like, you could have even went with dress pants, which is equally as revealing.
Thin. True.
Yes,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
sweatpants,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting.
yeah.
You hear that, guys? Wear silk pants next
Yeah, like
time.
wear dress pants. They're just as thin.
Silk pants stain
Yeah.
easily, though, I'll
Oh my
tell
God,
you.
that's,
But
listen, that's my favorite. I have one favorite stripper story. So when I
there
worked
we go. Now we're talking.
at the club in California, the Eureka Club,
Hmm.
there was an older gentleman that used to come in. Not every so Wednesday, there was like a place in town that did salsa night, and he would go to it every Wednesday. And like every once in a while, he would come in before because he'd want to get like warmed up before going to salsa class. So he was maybe, I'm gonna say like 70, no joke. His
Okay.
name was George with a G, but he preferred to be called Jorge. Like that's
Ah.
so like that's just where he,
Asian? I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
yeah, exactly. And like he came in one time in like a man thong with a fishnet outfit over. And like
Oh.
and his like debate was that he had clothes on, he was like, listen, I've got clothes on. Like,
Okay.
and it was so funny because
Technically, no.
yeah, exactly. So the club when I worked there was really funny because there was only VIPs there and you could dance to your own music, which is kind of like weird now that I think about it. So you would like bring in your little iPod and like,
Portland, yeah, yeah. There's a few
yeah,
clubs
do
like
that.
that, yeah.
So he would come in and he had no preference at all. It was just the first girl that he saw. He would like grab him by the hand and start like salsa-ing around, and you would go and do a dance for him. And I don't know, I had to be like, I don't know, 23 or something. And I was like, fuck it, that's a quick, like easy $150.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going
yeah.
back, like I'll
Yeah.
take the fucking fishnets. We weren't allowed to grind at the time. Like it wasn't like, and when you give this dude dance, I never give him a dance. We go back there and I'd always heard stories, but I hadn't been there when he had come in. You get into the dance room with him and he's a fucking lunatic. Like, so you couldn't touch at the club either, but it had these big couches and he would grip the couches and like start screaming like, fuck me. So, and he'd be like thrusting and it was like riding like a bucking bronco. And
Wow.
it's so crazy too, because I think back to it and I'm like, who the fuck let this dude in that day? Like, because he was in like a
Yeah.
fishnet outfit. It was almost like a
But that
woman's
was his
outfit
norm behavior every time he got a dance,
every
or you
single time.
don't?
He would,
Oh,
yeah, he would get in
wow.
there and he'd be like, fuck me. And, and then people would hear that in the club and they're like, what's going on back there?
Ah,
You know?
funny. I wonder, was it just like he was, yeah, interesting.
No, he would get all like it was weird. He would always do 3 songs, and
Mm,
because then I had seen him like then afterwards, I was like, okay, never doing that again. You know,
okay.
so
Yeah.
I would see girls like go dance with him again, and it was the same thing every single time. Like he would like get so worked up in this dance and like pelvic thrusting, and then he would just walk out like he was a normal person. He'd be like, okay, see you guys later.
You think they were like, hey, he's harmless. Who cares? I'll take my
I
money
think
and
it
keep
was
doing it.
yeah, I think it
Yeah.
was harmless. I think it was
Mm.
just my bad choice of going the one time he was in like a fucking outfit that nobody should have let him in, you know?
Gotcha.
But they were just like, oh well, he's harmless, you know, and I'm like,
But he
sure.
didn't normally dress like that, but he did normally behave like that.
Oh
That's
yeah, normal
interesting.
behavior, yep.
Yeah.
I
Well,
wonder what
let's do it. So we don't usually do it like this. We'll do a little bit kind of a lightning round here. Best stripper song or songs you like to dance to.
Ooh, okay, so I cover the board. I really love Black Magic Woman,
Ah,
Santana. I like After Dark. I don't know who it's by, but it's like the song that Salma Hayek dances to and From Dusk Till Dawn.
that's
Hot.
she's
After Dark.
there. She's right up the
Yeah, she's
alley for
right up
me.
there
Yeah,
in
yeah. She's
in
right up my alley.
checking the boxes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can dance to anything though. I try to play to the crowd. So if there's
Gotcha.
rock in there, I'll do that. I can do hip hop. I've done, like I don't know, fucking club music and shit like that. And the DJ at the club is very good about playing to the crowd.
Okay. So you don't do you put it do you go like here are my 3 songs I want or do you go like
No,
give
so
me
it's the
something like give me something in this vein or do you just go well yeah how does it work?
No, so the way that we do it at that club is we all have Spotify accounts and then we have
Ah.
playlists and we just put songs onto a playlist and the DJ asks that you put like a few different genres in there so he can choose to play. And then if you tip him well and you're set on like a certain amount of songs and you have enough time, you can go and ask him and say, hey, there's these people, I want to play this, I think it'll be, and he'll put it in. But if not, he's pretty good about, he'll pick you songs off your list. So at least you know that you're not going to get like
Huh.
fucking, I don't know, something you would
Cotton
never
Eye Joe or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Some,
Yeah.
up
That's
there.
fun. That's a great idea. Fuck Spotify though. They're fucking deleting
I
comedians. But it's okay.
really,
Nah, they're fine. There's whatever.
all
It's a
right.
whole thing.
You're on
Uh
Spotify though. Are you on there? This one's
I'm
on
a
there.
yeah, my album's on there, but I'm a Pandora guy. I didn't realize Spotify was so popular. I mean, I
It's
knew it
huge.
was popular, but I didn't know it was leaps and bounds more popular than Pandora. I thought Pandora was very normal amongst people, and then I talk to people and they go, I don't know what you're talking about. Never
Yeah,
heard of
you're
it.
like, what?
I use
Pandora's
Spotify, and
what?
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Huh.
Pandora's a little more it caters a little more to comedians and so that's whatever
Sure.
but there's a whole thing spoken word is technically what we do so we write it and we perform it and we weren't getting royalties on both
Okay.
because they were something about these streaming services were like well you just perform it and we're like well we're writers of it as
Yeah, you're
well
like, you didn't fucking think it up.
or vice versa or something and
Yeah.
they were like well then just fuck you we'll take you off because
Ew.
we don't want to pay you for both of those things
Oh
I
my
don't know
God.
I don't
Okay.
know all the details but there's a company that is on it and I'm subscribed to their service and I go you take care of this and hopefully figure it out do you
Yeah.
ever worry about the law have you ever run in with the
No,
law do
no,
you
I've
care about the law
um
do you what do you
no, in
yeah
Vegas it's a real thing, like undercovers that come in and whatnot. And like the undercovers there, it's really fucking strange rules. Cause I mean, obviously they're looking for prostitutes and like what a prostitute is. If she offers you a blowjob, that's prostitution. But they have weird
yeah
things where if you don't have both feet on the ground while giving a lap dance, they can give you a ticket. Or
ah
if you put your boobs in somebody's face for like 5 Mississippi counts, give you a ticket. So it's like really strange
gotcha
that I've heard from a lot of girls that like they worry about that. They're not even soliciting anybody, and they're like, I got
sure
a ticket because I don't have 2 feet on the ground. But
oh wow
where I work, no, like they're very the club itself is so run tight knitly, and I think that they choose to have the super strict rules. I don't think they have to
Sure.
in order to kind of like stay in the
Stay.
graces because
Yeah.
it's the only club there, you know. So it's like if they shut down, they get fucked, you know.
Yeah, it's a thing of like just go one little bit further than the law requires, and people stay out of your hair. So
Right, right.
I don't know anything about staying out of hair, but yeah, I get it. Do you you said so you go like for a week ish, and then
Yeah,
stay there and have a place or
yeah. I've got a
hotel
girl. No,
or
no, I've got a girlfriend I stay with, and I usually
gotcha.
work, I don't know, 6 or 7 days straight, and like
Mm.
I'll definitely um
Beat the shit out of your body.
yeah, exactly. I'll
Yeah.
definitely be in there from open till close, and it's worth it, you know. And then come summertime, I go up there a lot more. I'm there
Gotcha.
usually most of the summer, and you make enough money during that time to where I only have to go once a week for the rest of the year. So it's not bad.
Wild. And not I don't know how to say the word without using the word all.
Okay.
But is it all you do? Like I because people
Is
ask
it
me, "You're
all I
just a
do?
comedian?" And I'm like, "Well, not
Yeah.
just a comedian, but
Like,
yeah, this is my job." So,
I mean,
got
is that
other
my
irons in the fire for money?
uh yeah, yeah, it's my main source of income, and it's like
Hmm.
what I consider my job, you
Yeah,
know, like it's what I do. I mean, there's definitely like other things along the way that I'm like, oh, I can make some money doing that. So
sure.
I'll do that a little bit. But when it comes to like being like, I know that I'm going to be able to pay my rent and,
Sure.
buy myself groceries. Like, yes, it's that, you know, but I am in
Yeah.
school. I just don't know.
Ah, I gotcha.
I don't know what I want to do with that after.
Sure, nobody does.
Yeah.
Definitely not using my degree anymore. I mean, well,
I
I was for a
know.
while, but
I think at this point, I just want one just to say I have one, and I don't know if that's the right reason to get one, but whatever.
do you care to say what that is that you're studying?
Yeah, I'm double majoring in computer science and accounting. So I
You're gonna be
know.
a
Yeah, I
boring
know, boo, yeah,
accountant.
boo. I know, yeah. I don't know. It's I've always been really good with math. And the joke with computer science is it's just a glorified mathematician because that's all it fucking really is. Like
Sure.
you don't really learn anything about computers in it in that sense, you know? You learn like a few languages, but not enough to be like, I'm gonna go start programming, you know.
Sure.
You have
Sure.
to do your own internships after. And then I started doing accounting because for a little bit when I wasn't dancing, I was like doing the like books for somebody
Hmm.
super loosely, I would say, just
Sure.
and I really liked it. And I was like, well, fuck it, okay, if I'm in a place where I have the mental capacity to kind of tamper with it. And I ended up really liking it. So now I can't like choose between the two. So I just said, fuck
Sure.
it, I'll go until my like brain spins away, you know?
Right. And not that this ever has to end dancing. But I interviewed a woman who started at 49 and she's
Yeah,
52
it's I
now,
mean,
and
I've worked with
so
I
yeah.
don't I don't even think it would necessarily be because I mean I've always said that too, like having an exit strategy, because at some point you have to be like, okay, do I want to keep doing this? But then I
Sure.
hear of like women that I mean they're like career strippers, you know? They make
Right.
like I worked with a girl, I will tell this one story. The most money I have ever seen somebody make in one night. She was a
Mm.
49-year-old little Asian woman.
Okay.
Had fake boobs, but nothing else. Like you could tell she was older, but like
Sure.
she was aging well. This
Yeah.
bitch made it was the most money I ever made in a night too, like on like not telling somebody to come in and give me money. But
Gotcha. Okay.
she made, I don't know, $45,000 in one night off of
Oh my
one guy.
God.
And like I was like, why would she ever stop stripping? Like, why would you ever stop if you have that
Yeah.
fucking skill? And it just so happened I ended up talking to her because it was in Vegas and I got pulled into this like I don't know what you would call it, like money pit, and I ended up making an absurd amount of money. Not that, but and I talked to her and I was like, like, is this all you do? And she's like, oh, I have a PhD in psychology and it works really well in here. And I'm like, well, of course it, like, why wouldn't you invest in your, so
Man.
if I was to quit, I think it would be because like my body got tired of it.
Sure.
Because when it comes to like I said, it's like a buffet. Like I'm 30, almost 32 now, and definitely when I was younger, like there was older guys that liked me, and then there was younger guys that liked me, and I was like, oh, okay, that's because I'm young. And but now that I'm at my age, I'm like, it's the same fucking people. Like there's still like niches for people that are like, I like women that are older than me, or I like women that are the same age as me, or you get girls that are like, oh, I like older women, so it's like
Right.
it's hard to put a cap on like this is when I'm ending and I'm done here, because if you're making
Sure.
money, well, fuck it, like why
Yeah,
would
yeah.
not?
Right.
That's
Right.
crazy. Somebody started at 49. Holy shit.
Yeah, that was somebody in Portland. Pretty wild. That they were really involved in fitness and yoga and stuff like that, and someone within that world was like, "Have you ever thought of trying?" And
Yeah.
it just worked out. Um, the last 2 years has been bizarre, obviously, and probably affected your work. Did you consider anything virtual or
Oh,
online
I
or
have one
try
now.
or
I have an I have an OnlyFans now, and I
okay.
just recently started it, and it's just because I have like a decent amount of followers on Instagram. I mean, I'm not
Right.
really sure where they came from, to be honest, because like
That is
I'm
interesting.
not
Yeah,
like
okay.
I don't really like push, but I have a nice big butt, and like that's just always like, and
Sure.
I would get men that would would always be like, oh, I just like want to see more pictures of your ass, like just once and I was like, forever I was like, I'm not gonna do it, that's stupid, I don't want to do that. But then I've come like been in this place where I'm like, well, why would I not do that? If somebody wants to pay for a picture of my butt, like sure, but here you go.
Yeah, I mean, right, like for quote unquote free, you can see it at the club, not free, but free,
Yeah,
I
you pay
guess, if
cover ish,
if
but
you're
then
like me and I sit with my back to the stage. um
yeah.
but but yeah, I mean, part of me goes like, I don't know why every single woman in the world
Doesn't
doesn't
have one. Yeah.
sell some version of sexuality. And that might, I don't, but then the consistent answer I get from women is, well, it's it's more than just like take a photo, put it up. That's a constant hustle in and of
Well,
itself.
it
And
is.
so, but like to me, it could be passive. Like I got offered $750 for a picture of my dick from a gay guy. I assume he's gay. I don't know. I assume he's a guy. I don't know. It's a silhouette.
I
I
hope
have,
you
I have
did
no
it.
idea.
Yeah.
Huh?
Did you do it?
He doesn't have the money. I thought he had the money.
Oh, ew. What are you gonna
He's
fucking pay
paying
me?
me. We're at $300. He's paying me in installments. So yes, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, good.
Has to have my face in it, but whatever. It's out there with my face in it already.
Yeah. I mean,
So
it's not the worst thing that could be
for
out
zero
there.
dollars. So
Exactly. It's already out
so
there.
it's very passive, but it's like I've had to chat with the guy, and not had to, but I've put work time in effort, whatever. But
See,
it's
but the
very
cool thing about
passive. It's pretty
yeah,
passive
and
income.
the crazy
I
thing
don't know.
about it though
Or
is
it can
like
be. It can be. Yeah.
you get to put the limitations on it. So that's
Right.
like that versus the club. When you're in the club, like you're in there, you're in the environment. So if you're not really feeling it, you better fucking suck it up or go home because
Yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But like with OnlyFans and the internet, like don't get me wrong, there's guys that want to talk to me, and when I feel like engaging with them, I'll talk to them. But then
Sure.
if I'm like, I don't really want to talk to anybody today, I don't have to get on there, and it's
True.
like this crazy level of like you put in the work, but like, is it really that much work? Like, was it
It's
really taxing to talk to the
yeah,
guy
yeah.
and be like, do you want a picture of my dick? And he's like, yeah, I really want that. And you're like, oh my God, that was a lot of
What
work.
am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Now, but you have a lot more competition in the space,
Sure.
so that makes it. You don't.
I try not to
Yeah.
look at it that way though, because it's like when you start to look at everything as a competition, because I've found that with the strip club too. When you go into it with this like this person's my competition, it's like it almost I almost used to relate the strip club to like being like high school, but now there's money involved because you're like
Mm,
going in there and you want attention and like you're given money based upon like your looks, and it's like this
right.
thing where when you remove the competition about it and you're just like, hey, these people, for whatever reason, have chosen me to
Sure.
like me or have an attraction towards me or something that I have that I can give them. And here it
Yeah.
is. Like, if I was
Yeah.
to look at the next girl, it's like, oh, fuck, well, that girl is like
Sure.
doing this and she's making more money. That's my competition. And it's like, well, there's certain things that I don't do and won't do. And so I will
Yeah.
never be able to compete with certain people. And I'm okay with that,
Right.
Like,
Well, this is part of why it's so similar to comedy and how the birth of the podcast came from more of like this is so interestingly similar to stand up and what I do and what I advise all other comedians to do if they ask, but a lot of them don't do it, is learn the phrase cup of tea and just
yeah.
go, that's not my cup of tea, or that is my cup of tea.
Right.
And
And
I
not only,
don't,
I mean, and not
yeah.
only that, it makes your life a lot, it like makes it a lot
Yes.
easier on
That's
you
for
to like,
my, that's for, yeah,
yeah,
for my good,
yeah.
for my own
'Cause
good.
I see it with girls too. When I was younger, I was very egotistical and I was like, I have to be the baddest bitch in this club and fuck everybody else in here. And now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, like we're all in here together. Like we're all
Yeah.
doing this. Like some nights are going to be your nights and some nights are not going to be your nights. And like if you take that home with you, like who's the loser,
Right.
Like,
Well,
so
you'll be real bitter, ironically, like a
yeah.
lot of cups of tea are really
Yeah.
bitter.
Yeah.
But, well, and on a show, we're all on a show, and I'm like, I hope they suck, I hope they suck, I hope they suck. Like, is that really
Not
a
gonna be
great
great. Yeah,
show? Is that going to work out
exactly.
great for me? No, probably
No.
not. Um, we're getting to the end. So let's just,
Yeah.
you talked about future a little bit. Um, family you reference, but like you have a kid or multiple kids or a
Two
kiddo
kids.
and two
Two
kiddos,
children.
and
Two children.
you're like they live with you and the whole thing,
Yeah,
and
so I have a really good
they're
relationship with their dad, and we do
uh-huh,
like half and half time. And
great,
like, he's a great fucking dad. I feel so fortunate because I see all these situations with people where they have kids, and it's like the worst situations
sure,
they've ever been in their life. And I'm like, yeah, me and my baby daddy are like pretty fucking cool with each other.
that's
We
great,
love our kids. So when you take your ego out of it, like then you have a mutual common ground that you want to love your kids and this person loves your kids and then you're like, oh well, I guess
they have
this.
two people who love my kids, that's
Yeah,
great, yeah, yeah,
exactly. I know,
right,
yeah, too. And it's like I see it a lot with people and that it's hard to take that out of it, but when
hmm,
you can look at something of like mutual ground, like, hey, you guys want to put on a good show, well, like everybody's here to do that, then we're going to put on a good show. It's the same thing with like
right,
parenting, you're like, if we love these kids, then that's how it's gonna, that's what matters.
right. That's great. And I don't have, yeah, see, I didn't have, when I got divorced, no kids, no money, so no issues,
There you
like,
go. Yeah.
but I think we could have, we were best buds. We shouldn't have got married, probably,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That I've seen
but,
that.
but we didn't know any better. We were 23 and we were best friends, and everybody in our world was like, marry your best friend. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, it's her,
Yeah. Sounds
Um,
great. Yeah.
so that's great. And then it doesn't matter, but he lives somewhere out or lives close,
Yeah,
and you guys are
he
able
lives
to
somewhere. He lives somewhere else.
he
He's
lives somewhere else,
off
but
in
you're able to make it work,
Oh yeah.
and he's got his whole life and
Oh
work
yeah.
and
Yeah. Been
yep, and then
new baby, new almost
ah,
wife, I think. Like
sure,
it's like a very it like feels like I'm removed, but like Brady Bunch sort of ish. Like really
ah,
close with his girlfriend. They have a baby now.
oh,
My
good,
daughters are like that. That's like their sister. It's like
yep.
a
I
very
see it as her sister, good.
yeah, exactly.
And on your end, you got a dog I see running around, and so
There's
that's
two of them,
there
and he's like
too.
he's yeah, there's two. I'm so glad that they didn't start barking because usually they're just like super paranoid. But
You're great.
right now he's doing a pee pace, like he gets pee emergency.
I'm feeling the same thing. I get it. I had a bunch of water here, and for you, for fun. I mean, you spoke about briefly like, hey, you want to go out? And you're like, I'm out every night. But that was like sort of your past. So now, if you go to the gym. It appears.
Yeah, I go to the gym. I still now I'm in a place
Now you're like
where
what? Happy hour.
yeah, kind of. No,
What do
I
you?
go
Yeah.
out. Are you kidding me? I have a fucking
Uh,
blast. I do, but
Okay.
it's probably because I'm not in a position, so I don't drink in the club, which makes it a lot
Gotcha.
easier for me to enjoy like doing it on my own time, you know? So when I do go
Sure.
out now, it's like I'm genuinely like there to have it doesn't feel like a chore, you know? It used to feel
Gotcha.
like a chore.
And you're not required to drink at your, or not required, but like, there's not an expectation that you get drinks
I
bought
mean,
for you at your club.
I order fake ones, so they probably like
Ah,
the
I do that on stage and I feel terrible. So I either drink the drinks that are sent to me after the show, or I tell the bartender or I tell the club, don't charge them. I don't want you getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then, do you tell like men at the club you're how do you approach, regardless of what you have going on relationally, what do you say in the
Everybody,
club?
I'm single.
Uh
Unless
huh.
unless
Uh huh.
you can tell when there's a customer that feels like they're doing something wrong by being in there. Like they usually come in
Oh.
with groups and stuff, and they're the guy that's like, I have a great girlfriend at home. And then you're like, oh, I'm married.
Well,
It's okay.
I'm
Yeah.
married.
Like,
Fine.
listen,
Ah.
and then they're like, okay, like as if I'm like chomping at the bit to date them. But,
Ah.
like,
Whew.
yeah,
If it weren't for you being married,
yeah,
then clearly
exactly.
I would have cheated on my girlfriend tonight.
Yeah,
Like, okay.
exactly.
And that, is that true? What is the truth? Do you care? Or you don't have to say. All right.
Uh,
So I do what I want. That's what I do. Got it. So that's great. Will you follow again Nikki on Instagram at She Is Tattooed on Instagram, and hop over to our Patreon and take a peek at what we have going on
Actually,
there.
yeah.
And we won't commit to anything, but if you've listened this long, you probably tell pretty good chemistry, so we might
Yeah,
have a co-host in the future here. Uh-oh.
maybe.
But no commitment to anything. Nobody's committing to nothing. I don't want to put you on the spot. So, thank you so much. That was very, very fun and great interview. And we'll see you all next
No.
time.
Goodbye.
Bye.